Okay, so this is going to be my review of Avatar: The Rift Part 2. Now, as most of you guys know, that I haven't really been liking what's been going on in the Avatar comics themselves, but however, I did give The Rift the benefit of the doubt, and for the most part, it was good. I mean, it wasn't fantastic or anything, but Avatar: The Rift Part 1 got me interested to read Part 2 on the grounds of what the Spirit wanted, the connection with Avatar Yang Chen, and the stuff with Toff. In here, we follow up where it left off of Toff meeting her father once more, and her father totally dicks out on her and says, "I have no daughter," and leaves. And thus creates a fight between the gang and the Rough Rhinos. Which, by the way, can we get a Dark Horse? Can we get a Rough Rhinos spin-off comic? I really like these guys. They're really awesome. If we can work out a way to get an Avatar, a spin-off comic with the Rough Rhinos, that'd be great. But anyway, so long story short, after a good battle, we got the air acolytes who fight as well, but Aang tells him, no, you weren't supposed to fight, and Toff goes off on Aang saying, you're worshipping the past and not the future. And, yeah, that was okay, and Toff obviously angry. Okay, I can understand, it's not like with Korra when she's angry and yelling at people, it's different because she thinks she's entitled to it. With Toff, she's angry because her dad just blew her off. And plus, she's always had a problem with the airbending culture, so yeah. Anyway, long story short, the gang splits up. Toff goes to see her father once more and talk to him. Aang and the air acolytes go to celebrate the festival of Avatar Yang Chen. Meanwhile, Sokka and Katara discover a secret passageway after talking with the frozen Rough Rhinos. Here's my first red flag with this comic book. Okay, when Katara beat them with her waterbending, froze them where they stood, and her and Sokka are left behind, and it's not like Aang doesn't even tell Katara, hey, sweetie, we're going to be doing the Yang Chen thing. It's just like, oh, we're going to go off. We're not even going to tell Sokka and Katara. And it just leaves Sokka and Katara. They don't even say, like, should we lock them up with the Rough Rhinos? They're just talking with the Rough Rhinos, and they're like, should we just, not lock them up? I mean, they did try to kill us or anything. I mean, I know they're employed by Toph's father, but still, it just felt like the comic totally forgot about what should I do with Sokka and Katara. Oh, I know this. Ugh. So that's what it felt like. It just felt like it totally forgot the plot line and just like, oh shit, I gotta do something with them. Sokka and Katara go on a brother-sister adventure in a secret iron ore mine. And, yeah. So, that was kind of the big thing right there. Meanwhile, getting back to Aang and his air acolytes, they celebrate the Avatar, the festival of Avatar Yang Chen, and in the Cabbage Merchant's new restaurant. And this is where Aang gets in contact with Avatar Yang Chen, who tells them that this giant spirit that they encountered earlier, this giant Hulk spirit, who literally looks like something Godzilla would fight, encountered... It was a story from Avatar Yang Chen's past, and she also explains that Aang kind of hurt his connection with all the Avatars after, in Book 1, he severed his connection with Avatar Roku. I didn't know you could do that, but apparently he broke ties with Avatar Roku and doesn't depend on him anymore because of the advice he gave him. And Avatar Yang Chen tells him, look, you shouldn't have done that. And I was like, really? This is where the other part, and again, I had to physically remind myself because other characters show up from the other books, and you have to remember that I hated the other books, and I know a lot of other people hated the books. If you liked them, that's totally fine. I personally did not, but there are characters in here I was like, oh, it's such and such, okay. And the whole thing, I had to physically remind myself of Aang severing his connection to Roku, which I still didn't know avatars could do that. MacGuffin thing, I guess. Anyway, so, and it's kind of weird too, because Avatar Yang Chen, I clearly recall at the end of Sojin's comet story, when Aang was talking to her, she said, you're the Avatar, you don't get to be, she was totally cool with him and as I recall, Roku was okay with telling him to kill him, and Yang Chen was like, oh, well, yeah, he was kind of, oh, Roku was wrong in this comic book. Well, at the same time, in the TV show, she was like, no, you're the Avatar. Just because you're an airbender, that doesn't give you the chance to do, the right airbending thing, because that's not going to work. That's not going to work, because you're the Avatar. You have to take on these responsibilities. So I felt a little contradictory here. But I digress. It was cool to see that Avatar Yang Chen and how this kind of ties in with all of her. It turns out that she tells her story from the past of this spirit she encountered that turns out to be that giant Hulk spirit we saw in Part 1. The spirit's name was known as General Old Iron, and he was a spirit that was a guardian of another female spirit that he had a connection to. They say they were friends, but it was more like, yeah, they were more than likely lovers. Now, this also takes place with... also, I kind of want a spin-off comic with more Avatar adventures, because this felt really cool. Avatar Yang Chen, who had just recently learned how to control all 4 elements, and the only friend she has is her earthbending teacher. I think that's her earthbending teacher. And they go to this little village that's been attacked by this spirit that, obviously, like I said, was General Old Iron. And Yang Chen doesn't necessarily pull a Korra, because she does try to do diplomatic relations with the spirit, but the spirit ain't having it, because he is kind of on a miffed move. Even though she kind of bullhorned her way in there, Yang Chen didn't do necessarily the Korra route of being like, oh, you're attacking these humans, I attack you. It's more like she knows she's the Avatar and tries to handle a diplomatic solution first. So, as I said, General Old Iron tells Yang Chen the whole story, and we find out that the leader of the villager somehow caused the death of the spirit that General Old Iron cared about, and we don't know how, but he came back to look for some payback, and Yang Chen and Old Iron fought to a draw until they came up with an agreement, which then led to the festival of Avatar Yang Chen. Now, obviously, apparently the agreements has been severed because, obviously, they weren't near airbenders for about 100 years. So, in that regard, there were terms to the agreement, but we won't know that until Part 3, which doesn't come out till November. And, yeah. So, I like that. I like the whole backstory with Yang Chen. It felt really good. Moving on to the other stuff, we find out with Toff that, Toff's father, Toff is trying to be very nice here, and her father's still being a dick of like, oh, I raised my daughter to be better than the common peasants. And Toff responds with, look, I'm paraphrasing here, but look, I helped not only train the Avatar, but I helped him end the 100-Year War. And that daughter you thought you raised, that never existed. I'm right here, to make amends and be here for you. And of course, the father decides to dick out again. And it was a very touching scene of Toff trying to be mature here. We also get that other character, Sotaro, who is apparently, I guess, Toff's love interest, I don't know. And he is trying to defend his uncle, who is a total asshole. And, yeah. It's, I'm like, oh, dude, shut up. He's an asshole. And to which we move on to Katara and Sokka, who discover this iron ore mine that was apparently closed down by Toff's father, but reopened by Sotaro's uncle because he was more interested in mining this iron ore. We also get the reappearance of 2 Southern Water Tribe characters who are total assholes. Well, not really total assholes, because she says not everyone in the Southern Water Tribe got to hook up with the Avatar and save the world. And, we're kind of, the Southern Water Tribe is kind of suffering from economic trouble, so we're trying to get money here and send it back to our families. Again, I can't remember these characters nor where they came from, because like I said, I tend to forget a lot about the other 2 comics, for obvious reasons. So, I digress. Now, we also discover that, Katara and Sokka go back and talk to Toff's dad, who tries to shut everything down. Then, suddenly ground collapse, leaving Sotaro, his uncle, Toff, who's holding up the entire wall that falls in on them, under, with her metal bending, and it looks like it hurts. And we also have Toff's father down there. We have 2 other members of the Rough Rhinos. We have quite the crew down there. And Katara's down there. Meanwhile, Aang and Sokka are trying to find a way to get them out. To which I'm like, this cliffhanger doesn't feel like the stakes are very high because spoiler, we know they're okay. So I felt like that when that cliffhanger came up, I was like, okay, you're not really raising the stakes here. It's more like, how are they going to get out? Reasons. Because it's not like, oh no, do they make it out? We know they're going to make it out. Anyway, so all in all, this comic was good. Again, it did have some problems with. I had some personal problems with it, but I didn't think it was bad. Just like with the first story, it's not a terrible comic, not in the least. But it's not something I paid for. Someone put it all online, and I read it from there. That's kind of how it's been for a lot of the Avatar comics. I haven't bought these, but they are on YouTube. There were some pretty good fight sequences in here, like with the Spirit and Avatar Yang Chen and the gang and versus the Rough Rhinos. All in all, it's not a bad story, but like I said, there are some plot holes right there. Kind of like how everyone just split up right after a fight, like nothing really happened. And then the whole, how do they get out of this? And also the whole thing with Aang severing his connection to Roku and how everyone's just like, oh, well, Roku was wrong. Anyway, all in all, this wasn't a bad story in the least. But, yeah, anyway, I would suggest checking it out online. If you're an Avatar fan, I'd say at least give it a look. Again, it's not tongue-tied, sorry. Like I said, it's not a bad story, but it's not something I would pick up. And I'm curious to see how this all ends, especially with the spirit of General Old Iron, who looks awesome. You need to see the character design, because that's really cool. I love the character design with him with the stone armor on, and iron and stone armor, and then with the armor off. It's really cool. Anyway, once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'm out.